everyone. Today we're going to be talking about using tickets in the Infor CRM Web client. I've already opened my web client here, and we're currently looking at the account level in the client. And looking at the account screen here, and the reason I started out on the account screen here with the tickets is because one of the components of an account is related to the tickets itself, and that is the contracts. So underneath the account here, I went to more tabs, and we have a contracts tab here. And in contracts, we have a current one in this account, so I'm just going to open that up. Click on the hyperlink here to open that contract. So we're able to have contracts with an account, and these have to do with the service. So depending on how you set up your contracts, you can have different contractual maintenance or service type with them. So here you see here, I've got the contract now opened with associated with the account and a certain contact. We've got a comments field there, but over in the middle here we've got some different care options. Now these would be, this is a pick list, so you could change this certainly for your company. These are out of the box, the certain different maintenance levels they have here. The contract type can be in days, it could be in hours, could be perpetual, depending on how you want it. And when you create a new one, you're able to choose that. So this one, the start date is 6/29/14, and we can also signify here that it's supposed to start, the contract's supposed to start with the first ticket, and then it gives an expiration date here. Also, you could have some grace days in there, so if you want to put 10 days grace or something after it expires, you could put that in. The quantity here, because this is in days, they've got it set up for 364 days. You have the client's customer PO here that you could put in, the day they purchased it, how much they purchased it for, if you want any discount, and the contract amount. So when you create tickets then, you'll be using it against this contract here. So let me go back to the account now, and what we'll do is go ahead and insert a new ticket. So here I'm just going to go up to the new menu, whoops, click on the new menu and choose ticket. So it shows the account name here. Now this is where we can choose the contract this is associated with. When I search, it just brings up the contract with that account, so I can choose that. So that's going to be put against that contract then for the amount of days that it's linked up for. Now this is going out into 2016. That was only good through 15. But then we go ahead and choose our area, category, and issue. So this is kind of a breakdown of where we're the different areas that we're servicing. So if I click on area here, we'll see some examples. They've got like general questions, hardware questions, software questions, and a variety of stuff in between there. So you'd set this up for your company. I'm just going to choose hardware here. Once I choose hardware, you see then it comes into different categories. So I have a bunch of different categories. If I choose hard drive here, then it shows me different issues, and I can use one of those two different issues there. We could also set it up so that you could also just type in your issue if you wanted to after you've chosen the area and the category. Over on the right here is a source. Then where did we get this from? Did it get emailed in? Some other choices there. Did it get it phoned in? Did somebody walk in with a piece of equipment? The status, of course, is going to start out as opened. We use this status very regularly as it moves through the process of being completed. Are you working on it? Is it in process? Are you waiting for the customer? Has it been submitted to the customer? Lots of different statuses you could have here. And of course, you'd have to work that out in your own company, what different status levels you're going to have. And then we also have an urgency here, as well as when it is needed by and when it was assigned to, and who it was assigned to. This one's assigned to everyone. Normally, you'd probably assign this to an individual so that they know it's in their queue to work off of. Now here it came up and said, Dan Barrett's no longer available for calls. So in your administrator, you're able to set up who is taking service calls and who is not. So Dan is not, so we'll choose somebody else here. There we go, Barb Hutchinson was. So I'll save that there in a minute. Now we can also check the boxes over on the right here. Was it resolved first call? Do we want to submit this for speed search or approve for speed search? So if you're using the approval for speed search, that means that people can submit things for speed search and then another individual would actually approve them for speed search. If you're not using the approval method, and that's again set up in the administrator, then you can just, everything gets submitted to speed search for you to be able to check on in your knowledge base later. So any problems on tickets that you're having now, you can search on later to be able to find those resolutions. Public access here, you have internal or customer, so if you've got a customer-facing portal, this would also determine whether this ticket was visible by the customer or not. I'll talk about the punch-in a little bit later here. But now we had type in our subject here. I'm going to type in bad hard drive. And then we would type a description of our problem down below there. Not going to put anything in the resolution yet. We haven't resolved it. We're still inserting our ticket. So I'm just going to click on the save icon there to save this ticket, and it's going to bring us to the detailed view of that ticket. So you can see here in the background as it's continuing to save here, it's created a ticket number for that, 62. It's associated with that account and contact. So it's also associated with that contract, and we see our area, category, and issue there. If we look down below under details, we'll see where it has picked up our subject and our description of our problem. And now we have all these different tabs down at the bottom of the screen. So from a ticket, you can also create a defect or a return. So you can go one other level deeper here, that once you have a ticket with an issue, maybe it's a defective hard drive, or maybe they're going to return that hard drive. It could be a defect and a return. You can create both right off of a ticket. On the ticket itself, then, we have a comments screen where you could type in internal comments about that. You have activities. These are your normal activities like phone calls, meetings, to-dos that you can schedule against a ticket. You'll notice here, let me go ahead and click on phone call here. And it brings up my schedule phone call screen. But you see the different levels here where it attaches it to the contact, attaches it to the account, it can attach to an opportunity, and it can attach to a ticket. And in this case, it's attached to this ticket. So it would gather under all three of these different categories. If we were to look at that phone call later on, we could see where it was located by either the contact, the account, or the ticket. Now we also have ticket activities. This is when you're actually working on the ticket. And when you're working on the ticket, I mentioned this punch-in button before when we created the ticket. You can use the punch-in button if you want. When you use punch-in, and I'm going to click on punch-in now, it's going to switch that button to say punch-out. Now it's starting to track the time that I'm working on this ticket. So this has meant that if you're working solely on one thing at a time, when you start working on this ticket, I can punch into it and continue to stay punched into it until I've completed my work, and at that point I would go ahead and punch out of the ticket. You notice when I punched in, it actually created a ticket activity underneath ticket activities for me. So if I go to punch out, it's going to pop open that ticket activity for me. I can click on edit here actually to open that. So it's going to open that activity where I can go in and then change. It only was 0.02 because we weren't in there very long. So we have that one activity, but we can create other activities under here. So if I want to start another one, I can just click on advanced here, create another activity, and here it's showing my start time, the time it is right now, and then I can put in an end time also. It goes out till tomorrow. So now I've got 24 hours elapsed time. And I can also add parts with that if I'm using parts. So if there's parts that you've had to replace while you're working on that hard drive in this instance, you could attach those parts here, and those come from our different products as we're attaching parts here. So if I look up here, I can look up by SKU. I can add selected here. It adds it in the background. Now, it doesn't close this window because I may want to choose several different parts. So once I'm done choosing parts, then I can just click on close to close that window. But it puts a price in there for me. I could go in and edit that price if I wanted to. So I'm going to save this ticket activity now, and you could actually use these ticket activities then to do your billing off of with your parts and your labor all included into one there. So, and they're all going to show up underneath your ticket activities, again, different than your regular activities underneath a ticket itself. We also have attachments there and a journal. Now that journal you can't really do much under yourself. This is tracking different things as it's completed. You'll see here the status code was opened, the administrator completed an activity, completed another timed activity, customer update, things like that. So this journal creates itself as you're doing different things within the ticket. Then, like I said, we have defects and returns there. Underneath more tabs, I think we've got everything except the ticket timeline here. We can always look at the ticket timeline here. It shows when it was created, when they were punched in and punched out of there. Again, the ticket timeline isn't something that you can really touch at all. That's going to create itself as you do different ticket activities on there. But now with your ticket activities, you see up on the top here, we have all these different groups. So you're able to look at all your own tickets under My Ticket Activities. And of course, you can create your own groups here. They show them over on the right-hand side here, or we can go to the list view, just like we do with accounts, contacts, or opportunities. Here's a list view of my tickets. Any overdue tickets, so that would be looking at the date that it needs to be completed. And we could sort by that if we had that up here. We don't have it in this group here. We can look at all open tickets, when it was last updated, when it was received, who it's assigned to. So you might have a group of your own tickets with some of these statuses in them. So here we see whether they're open, whether they're in process, to know which tickets you should be working on at the time. So if we go to one, we've got one here that's called open. We can click on that ticket and open it up. So in here then, as we worked on the ticket, we would complete that ticket activity and change our status to whatever it is. If it's in process, that we're continuing to work on it, we could put it in process and keep moving our needed date out accordingly. Get it into the current year here. Out accordingly to when we actually need to have that done. So as we're looking at our ticket list, we can tell by the needed date when we have to have these things done by and what tickets we need to work on currently in order to keep everything updated here. So, and again, in this specific group, they don't have the needed by date. Yeah, I have to copy that group. There, now I've got a copy of it. Now I'll edit it. And from the ticket table again, find that needed date and add it into the layout. Now when I click on it, it should be way over on the right-hand side there, needed by date. And of course we can sort by that date too. Now right now it's got the date and the time in there, but we could certainly reformat that column so it only showed up as date. So again, all these tickets then are associated with the contact and the account. So if what this is useful for, besides the fact that we're fixing problems and whatnot with the customer, also any salesman that was going to go to call on an account, they can always look up underneath the account itself and look at any tickets. Here's my tickets tab, and see what tickets are out there. whether they're completed or not. If they're completed, that's good. They know that they had some issues and they've been resolved. Or if there's any open issues currently, we've got a couple open issues here at this account, battery not charging properly, so that when they do call an account, they're well informed and know the issues they're currently having rather than going in there blind. And again, we can click on the hyperlink here to move back to the ticket again. So with the ticket, you can have contracts associated at the account level to specify hours or weeks or days of your contract for support. Create a ticket for each issue. You can also create defects or returns from those tickets. And then you work those tickets with your ticket activities or regular activities until you resolve them and close the ticket. Once the ticket's closed, of course, then you don't have to do any more work with it. Now this says there's open activities assigned to others. Please complete them before closing. So that's a good thing. It's actually showing me that there's ticket activities underneath here that are not closed. So we'd have to close them first before we could close the ticket. Some of the setup for this is done in the administrator first as to who's taking calls, who's not taking service calls. You can also set up preferences for people that work in certain areas and categories that are specialists in a certain category, so it gets assigned to them automatically. And again, your speed search here, when it gets submitted for speed search, that's your knowledge base. So up in the upper right-hand corner, if I wanted to search for a certain problem, we could search for that problem there. That you keep in mind as you're writing up your tickets so that you use some common terminology within your ticket so that when you go to search on it, you can find that terminology again. And that's about all there is to tickets. Very useful tool within the CRM associated with your contacts and accounts to track any issues that you have with customers all the way through until resolution. I want to thank you for joining me today and have a great afternoon.